What's cooking, folks? Vermillion Phoenix here, and today I want to talk about the most recent mag update in Warframe. Namely, that it sucks. They have ruined the shield polarize skill and added some not so meaningful buffs to the rest of mag's abilities. First, let's just talk about shield polarize since that's the elephant in the room. They changed the mechanic so that it now behaves as Molecular Prime does. Molecular Prime is completely fine the way it is, because it's a crowd control ability. Shield Polarize strictly deals damage. However, they have changed the damage mechanics to be flat and the value is low, and they've also caused it to be reliant on both power strength, duration, and power range. Losing any of those stats makes it significantly less effective. So there's no way to really use it well. Not to mention, since it is now based on a flat amount of damage rather than a percentage, not only is it bad against shields, because any amount of shields that it works on currently, because the max base amount is about 400, even with a ridiculous amount of power strength, it's not doing anything significant. In addition to that, armored enemies have multiplied armor based on their level. And armor levels get ridiculously high. By I think level 50, most of the enemies that you even would care to use armor reduction on take about 5 uses before getting to 0 armor. Now for low armored enemies, it's okay. For high armored enemies, you're better off using corrosive weapons. And for an ability that was created specifically or retooled specifically for stripping armor, that's horrible. I mean, it effectively makes it worse than Excalibur's Radial Blind, which is easier to use, and even if you drop the stats on it, it's still extremely useful. And Excalibur got nerfed too, but not nearly as horribly as Mag did. Now, Pull and Crush are effectively slightly buffed if you use the Magnetize ability on an enemy first, costing at least 50 energy, or at least that's the base cost. Then you get double damage on Pull and Crush. Now that's not bad, but really, like, you want me to, like, for Pull, first of all, if you're going to magnetize an enemy already, great. If not, it's no benefit. Magnetizing enemies strictly to use Pull or Crush doesn't really seem like something that really fits into the playstyle right now, because Crush is a 360-degree attack. It hits everything within the radius. Magnetize is an extremely small bubble. Even if you max the range, the size of the actual bubble that absorbs ammo is about 10 meters. It's large for something if you're just rooting an enemy, but it's nothing compared to what you're actually going to deal with when you're fighting large groups of enemy, or you actually get into a situation where you need to use Crush, which at this point is reduced strictly to crowd control purposes, because you're not going to magnetize like 500 enemies that you have to look at, wait a second for it to cast, and then try to crush everything. So usability on magnetize and crush combos is pretty much non-existent. It was a nice idea in theory, but it just doesn't work out. Like, if anything, I would switch that debuff to shield polarize, or just allow the magnetized debuff to apply to like all of Mag's moves. Because if that happens, then all of a sudden you benefit from chaining moves. Like, you can pull enemies and then stick them with something else. Like if Magnetize works as a debuff, then all of a sudden, or not the Magnetize ability, but if there was a magnetic debuff, then, well, there is a magnetic debuff. If enemies affected by debuffs were given just the bonus damage, or even make it the magnetic debuff, that's completely okay. Make the magnetic debuff be the trigger for the bonus damage and like other effects that you might want to add. In addition to that, like, change shield polarize back. Like, having it set up to work like Molecular Prime doesn't work for it. I mean, if you do want to leave it that way, double the range. like double the rate at which it expands, and double the rate at which it no, that's it, double the rate at which it expands. That way, if you really do pump duration into it, even though you will sacrifice range, it will still be worthwhile. And if you decide to sacrifice duration so that you can get like rapidly exploding magnetized bubbles, then it doesn't make shield polarize useful. And all of her abilities now benefit from power strength, which is great, because I believe that like it wasn't really a good idea to put power strength on mag reasonably before, other than for shield polarize. And now shield polarize is so low that power strength really isn't worth it. Like, I can get by now with 60% power strength on magnetize and it still performs really well, which is ridiculous, because I can keep it with a high amount of duration, a high amount of range for the explosions, pump damage into it, and it's a great skill. Like, magnetize is fine, but shield polarize has been changed into a state where like it's just really not worth pushing that button. That's pretty much all I have to say about her active abilities. Now, the one thing that I do like that they have done, and I do want to point this out because it doesn't seem like a lot, but to me it is, and that's the passive ability on Mag, which is to allow her bullet jump to absorb pickups, or not absorb them, but it forces them to follow you, same as the vacuum on a Sentinel. Now, this doesn't seem like a huge thing to some people, I'm guessing, but half the reason I use a Sentinel is for vacuum. Like, just the mental space of not having to search for pickups, since it will just grab whatever I can use. Just by it being nearby is amazingly useful. Like, it's one of the best utility things in the game for me, because I don't want to have to pay attention to every little item on the ground. I just walk by it, if I can use it, it's there. The bullet jump vacuum passive works really well for that, and it means that if I decide that I really want to just start using Kubrows or Kavats when they get released, I can. So that is amazing. Like, I wish at some point in the near future that the passives were like swappable. Like, maybe you can add the passives to some part of like focus, or like just make them moddable so that you can move them around. Like, that would be an incentive to have more frames. Make them lock to the frames, and then there are parts that are interchangeable. Like, that would be something that I would think about. Like, I'm not sure if they would really care to do that, but hey, you know, why not? Other than that, I just wanted to leave some quick info about, you know, basically what I've tested, and you should see that in the video here. Other than that, thank you guys for watching. If you have any comments or feedback, feel free to leave it in the comments below. I definitely appreciate it. I'd love to start a discussion about this. I've already peeked at the forums and looked at some of the bugs. They still have a lot of things to fix with Magnetize, and I'm hoping they do that, but even so, as it stands, Shield Polarize is trash now, and I don't see any way around that. Again, thanks for watching. Feel free to like, subscribe if you'd like to see more, and other than that, have a good one, guys.